Well, I wanted to come to civil society, but first, Francesca, can I ask you a question? Because as we're still sort of trying to place the context within the Global South, and to be a bit controversial, do you think WHO took its eye off the ball? I mean, the questions of well-being and health as part of agriculture are not necessarily new concepts, but why at the height of monoculture and agricultural development was WHO not asking for the recommendations you made just a few minutes ago?
Well, WHO is reaching out to the other sectors. I think that's a new fact, because in the past we've somehow been confined to our leadership in the health sector, in our leadership in the normative work. Now we understand that, first of all, we need to partner. We need to partner with our colleagues in the UN system, for example, FAO. We're going to be collaborating with the Committee for Food Security in making sure that some of these policies actually get picked up by the other sectors. The Minister will know that it's very difficult actually to have this collaboration across sectors. And now health as an ask to the agricultural sector. So I think that's a good step forward. Now I think we need to be powerful enough in health to be able actually to convince the other sectors that they have to implement these policies. And that requires a lot of collaboration and support also by the civil society. So we're doing our best, but we are only one of the players to achieve this.
Dr. Subra, do you agree with that diagnosis that there needs to be better joined up?
Oh, yes. That's precisely the reason why I'm here. I think when Gunhill heard me in the World Economic Forum, it was on the development of healthy community, which was actually an interaction of multi-sectoral involvement. And going back to what the question which was asked by the previous speaker as to whether it can become the election manifesto of governments, that's exactly what I was trying to propose just now in my speech. Is agriculture has been election manifesto. Increasing production in agriculture has been an election manifesto, and consequent upon that, governments have increased irrigation, for example, increased roads to rural areas. This has become a result of election manifestos which were based on agriculture. Mm-hmm. But now, only in ICN2, WHO and FAO brought the interlink between agriculture and nutrition. Mm-hmm. And said now agriculture has to be looked from a nutritional point of view, which is factual. Why do human beings eat food anyway? It's for the purpose of nutrition. But this connectivity has not been highlighted before, and you cannot blame governments for that. And now, once you've highlighted, there is a need to refocus this, that we are not talking about agriculture per se, but we are talking about agriculture in the wake of nutrition. And that is why I said it has to become a populist movement, where it has to start from the grassroots, who actually demand that agriculture has to provide us the diversity of food which we need, so that diversity gives us a wholesome meal, which was described very well today by many speakers. So that is why, and you listen carefully to what I said, that momentum has to rock the political base. And when the momentum rocks the political base, necessarily become political agenda. And that will become a manifest in election manifestos. And that is the way to go forward. I think, so that's why I did suggest, you are not here just now, probably it has also to consult with political leaders.
So I think the idea about catalyst has two parts to it, from my understanding of it. There's that idea of agriculture and food and nutrition, but there's also something about farming as an employment opportunity, especially in the Global South, to absorb youth bulge. I mean, I'm happy for any of you who would like to sort of take on this other aspect of it, because we talk so much about the potential for, to stop young people from moving to the city. Have we understood the reasons why there is that urban flight in the first place? And can farming be, if not the panacea, one of the solutions to addressing youth bulge? Minister?
I think definitely there is a role for that. As I said, I mean, there are about 500 million small farmers throughout the world, involving about 2 billion people. Of course, there's a huge potential. And cutting across, I think most small farms will close if not for government subsidies and incentives as now. And that's true for my country. I think our farms survive because of very heavy subsidies and very heavy incentives which we give. And very often we do this is because they've been traditionally involved in that. And for them to be able to produce, although we are not importer of food rather than exporter. And that is true of all countries. I met somebody yesterday who has got a sheep farm in the United Kingdom, and she told me that if not for government subsidies, the sheep farm in the United Kingdom has to close too. So it's not only in developing countries, but even in developed countries, farming depends very heavily. Small farms depend very heavily on subsidies and incentives. Having said that, of course, there are 2 billion people who are employed. And anything which destabilizes that is going to cause unemployment for them. So that is that is what, as what I said in my speech, intervening on small farmers has got great potential, increasing their productivity, giving them knowledge, giving them technology, giving them access to science, giving them access to equipments and better seeds, and increasing the productivity of their farms and increasing their income. Will have tremendous capacity, not only of increasing income for them, improving their well-being, because then they'll be able to give good food to their own families. They'll be able to give food for the others. And on top of that, produce nutritious food. And as you know, I think you didn't want the topic to be talked about, but whatever it is, productivity is related to intake of nutritious food. Those who got low calorie intake or food which is lack in micronutrients have got lower productivity. There are figures which show productivity increase as high as 20%, 20 times. So it is important. So malnutrition leads to low productivity, low performance, and that has got an economic impact. So overall, of course, getting small farms involved has got potential economic catalyst effect. Reducing malnutrition has got potential economic catalyst effect. Removing micronutrient deficiency has got economic enhancing effect. So there's a tremendous scope for as a growth for economic.
Minister, from your experience, what is your work? And before you were in Minister of Health, you're a Minister of Human Resources, working across ministerial departments and working with external partners. How do we do this to best effect? Is it capacity building? Is it training? What is it that policymakers need to be able to bring about the change that we want to see?
I think it is to be a holistic solution. I mean, on one thing, there is a need for greater synchronization, particularly between I think this is common in most countries, between the ministries of agriculture and the Ministry of Health. In many countries, the agricultural ministry just makes the agricultural agenda, and the health ministry makes the health agenda. And very often the message which is given by the health ministry to the agriculture ministry is not taken. So in my ministry, I chair a council, which we call the Council for Nutrition, where the Agriculture Ministry attends, and other agencies which are interrelated to attend. So the nutritional agenda is actually given to all of them. Even creating such a structure to ensure that the ideas get implemented, you cannot say it has been implemented to a satisfactory level. The reason being is the ultimate objectives of both these ministries have historically been different. Agriculture ministry has been related to production of food. And that was, for example, if it's maize, how do you increase the production of maize? And by large amounts. And that is the KPI, the key performance indicator for the ministry. It is not to see whether there's a nutritional component of the product. So I think that tweaking is essential. Now we have this realization. And once that cross multi-sectoral involvement between these two ministries and the agencies which are around them, then of course the other things will come, like what you say. One is R&D, scientific input, human resource of a capacity to actually provide that.
So practically, what does that look like? Is that joint ministries? Is that joint boards? How do we?
It's collaboration and cooperation and working together.
But some could argue that if the Ministry of Agriculture is saying to the Ministry of Health what they need, that is collaboration. That's the traditional version, right? Sharing policy briefs.
Yes.
You're saying we need to go further than that.
Right.
So in your
There must be
government,
common
what would that look like?
objectives. Must be common objectives.
Thank you. Milian, did you want to add something else for the audience about what you think?
Maybe on research.
More research.
Yeah, I think we need much more evidence on the value of agroecology as a future form of agriculture. We are collecting cases already. We are also doing our own research on agroecology. But we need more work on that.
Partner for more research. Fantastic. Francesco.
I think we need visionary, enlightened policymakers, and we have many, which are making a big difference in the world. We need ambitious solutions, and these ambitious solutions are possible. Policies, legislation, investments, we need to create consensus around that, and we also need to make sure that some of the actors can change their way of doing things and should not use the old system, which is lobbying, to push for their agenda. Somebody said today, we don't lobby, and we have the evidence, and Robert showed some of that's not the case. So I think we can interact only if the interests are clear and if we're honest about alternative solutions.
Fantastic. And finally, to you, Dr. Subra.
Right. I think we have to respect local communities, the customs and cultures which defines agriculture and nutrition and eating habits, and take recognition of that and work backwards towards nutrition and towards agriculture, and to ensure that the entire system actually reconciles. So if we do that, I think then the modern concept of nutrition and agriculture as an enabling factor will reconcile with the cultural norms which are prevalent on a community. I think it's important to respect all those components of that.
Fantastic. It just it's left for me to thank the panel. I was going to summarize, but then actually there is absolutely no point because you've done so for me so succinctly. So please give them a round of applause. Thank you all for listening so attentively and for having us here at the EAT Forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eliza. I can highly recommend you go to Eliza's Twitter page. Do make your way off the stage, panel. Fantastic. So elegant. So charming.